Hi, I'm Jeff Walters, and welcome to The Minutes. And thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of October the 7th, 2024. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/The Minutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. On this episode, we'll have a rundown of what happened at this week's City Council meeting and an interview with Brad Loroff, the manager of Thunder Bay Transit. There are some major changes on the way for how transit operates in our city, and he'll tell us about them. But first, Council heard a request from administration to move $4 million into the Affordable Rental Housing Program. The request comes after the city received 9 applications for the program, which is funded through the Housing Accelerator Fund. The money is used to help spur development in Thunder Bay. Because of the timing of how the city has allocated its funding, the program for this year faces a shortfall. However, that money will be replaced from the government's next year. Moving the money from the Renew Thunder Bay Reserve Fund will help 6 nonprofit and Indigenous organizations create 130 new affordable housing units and 114 new market units. A total of 9 applications were received, but only 6 were deemed as eligible. Administration says the uptake in the program during its first application opening exceeded expectations. Advancing the funding will allow more units to get built sooner instead of in latter years of the program. Administration said with the budgeted funding, it would only be able to fund 2 of the 6 projects. About $5.6 million in total would be used to support the building of these units. Council got its annual update on the Eye on the Street program on Monday night. In the past year, the system has been improved to provide better footage in low-light conditions and a more usable system, with police using the system as well. The system is monitored live. Emergency services were called 7 times, most commonly for assaults and motionless persons, along with 12 requests for information from the public. The Eye on the Street program will expand by 15 locations this year, which are expected to be operational by the end of the year. Eye on the Street has been running since 2005. Administration reported back to Council on Monday after a deputation in June asked for a reduction in fees for non-profit recreational sports teams. This year, the city introduced a new $100 user fee to use fields. Administration says there are currently 9 youth house leagues using sports fields for soccer, softball, baseball, and football. 4 of those leagues are operated by community centers. A total of 267 teams are impacted by the fees, with about 3,600 players. If the team fee was stopped, the city would not access $26,700 in revenue. Administration says the fields used by these teams require a higher level of maintenance for field setup, lining, grass cutting, and aerating. The estimated cost to provide this maintenance is nearly $72,000, with a cost recovery of about 37%. 2 of the leagues do their own chalk lining, as it's required more than twice a week. The city provides the materials, but the leagues provide the labor. Administration reporting back on this request from Council means that it is now off of the outstanding items list. Council approved spending more than $232,000 on a new chiller at the Thunder Bay Tournament Center. The chiller is used for the ice plant for the arena's ice. Replacing the chiller is an eligible cost for the Tournament Center Capital Reserve Fund. The replacement of the unit was requested by the Tournament Center's tenant. The city owns the facility, but it leases it to the Norwestern Management Corporation. The tenant makes an annual $25,000 contribution to the capital fund. The old chiller was 29 years old, and they have an expected lifespan of 25 years. It is impossible to determine the interior condition of these pieces of equipment due to their closed system. It is not considered safe to push these systems beyond their anticipated lifespan. The work has already been done over the summer, so the ice will be ready for the 2024-2025 season. Council spent some time hearing about potential changes to Thunder Bay Transit. City administration says the changes would make bus service in the city more relevant and reliable. The changes, as proposed, will take place in 3 stages, starting in December of 2025. It includes turning some areas of the city into on-demand transit, instead of having fixed routes with specific times. New software will be needed to book trips electronically, with Lyft Plus customers using the new booking system first. The new system would also allow transit to use smaller vehicles. There's still lots of work to be done, including determining the exact on-demand areas, how stops will be serviced, along with service guidelines and financial implications. All of these changes could also create better service on fixed bus routes if better service is required. We'll hear more about this plan on transforming transit when Transit Manager Brad Loroff joins me in the studio in just a couple of minutes. Council approved some changes to its agreement with the CEDC on Monday night. The Community Economic Development Commission will close its Project Reserve Fund and move it into the CEDC Investment Fund. The amount of spending that also requires council authorization will increase from $100,000 to $250,000. There's currently about $760,000 in the reserve funds. This fall, the city is offering 2 leaf and yard waste curbside collections. The first collection is on your first recycling day in October, and the next pickup is 4 weeks later. Clean up your yard, trim your trees, bundle your brush, rake up all those leaves, and put them in craft paper bags. There's no collection limit, but bundles should be less than 1 meter long, and all items must weigh less than 18 kilograms. Council approved the purchase of 2 new ambulances on Monday night. The 2 new ambulances will replace 2 others that are unusable due to traffic collisions. The total cost of the 2 vehicles is about $740,000, which is less than the city's insurance deductible. Since this is less than the deductible, most of the cost of the vehicles will come from the Insurance Reserve Fund. Superior North EMS has a fleet of 44 ambulances, of which 4 or 5 are replaced annually. This year, due to cost escalation, only 2 new ambulances were purchased. The cost of an ambulance went up by a third from 2022 to 2023. It can take more than 18 months to order and receive a new ambulance. In the interim, paramedics have been using previously decommissioned vehicles. Administration notes it will need to purchase 5 new ambulances next year. A report dealing with encampments in Thunder Bay was discussed at length at City Council on Monday night. The report calls for a number of changes, including creating a temporary village for encampments, enhancing encampment cleanup, and creating an encampment response team. Administration highlighted a number of changes on how the city will deal with encampments. It should be noted this was a first report, so Council asked administration for more information, but couldn't actually debate the contents of the report. Council heard how there are now 200 people living unsheltered in the city. Earlier this year, Council adopted a set of distance guidelines, establishing clear parameters as to where an encampment could be set up. Administration says in the report that the implementation of those guidelines has had mixed results. There have been many successful encampment relocations based on the guidelines. However, some people in encampments are not willing to work with the group helping to enforce the guidelines, and some are unwilling to abide by the distance guidelines. There's also been a large increase in reports to the city's dispatch line regarding encampments, which has led to an overwhelming number of issues to respond to. There are a total of 10 actions administration wants to undertake to give a better response to encampments throughout the city. The plan includes continuing to advocate upper levels of government to address homelessness, getting more help from community partners, enhancing the cleanup and sanitation at encampments, developing a temporary village to support up to 100 units at an encampment, finding options for designated encampment locations within the urban cores, a review of city bylaws, creating an encampment response team to support compliance with rules and regulations, creating a lived experience group to guide the development of the action plan, creating a communications plan for the encampments, and supporting the creation of long-term housing through the District Social Services Administration Board and other agencies. The cost to enhance the response to encampments is about $450,000, much of which is in staffing and health and safety measures. That will be in the 2025 budget. People who live in encampments continue to have concerns about safety, noting that they were in support of a temporary village concept. They did have concerns about feeling they would be on display if brought to only a few select locations, and wanted to have input from people who live on both sides of town, as there are 2 separate encampment communities on the north and south side. The report will come back to Council on October 21st, along with the additional information that was requested by Council. And finally, a notice of motion was included on Monday night's Council agenda. A notice of motion is when Council wants to reconsider a decision that was ratified by City Council. It requires a 2/3 vote to make any changes. In this case, it has to do with the budget. The notice of motion will be debated on Monday, October the 28th. Debate is not allowed at the first notice of motion. This only gets it put onto the next City Council agenda. Now, on the 28th, Council will hear about why the capital budget should be addressed prior to the new fiscal year. This year, the capital budget, if the motion is approved, will be presented to Council as a first report on November the 4th of 2024, with the debate taking place 3 weeks later. During this interim period, administration says it will consult with the public on the capital budget. Typically, the capital budget is debated with the operating budget in the early months of the new year. Administration says by debating and approving the capital budget prior to the new year, it gains a 2-month head start on capital projects. This could give better bids and scheduling for capital work, such as road work or building work. The scheduling change will also result in a better spotlight on the capital budget and will help Council in its budget-making decisions. And that's a wrap as to what happened at Council this week. For more information on anything that happens at Council, please visit our website, thunderbay.ca/council. It's a service that's used by thousands of people in Thunder Bay, and making it more efficient helps people save time and get to where they're going a little bit easier. I'm talking about taking the bus, specifically Thunder Bay Transit. On Monday, Council heard about a plan that will take a couple of years to implement to make transit more efficient and effective in Thunder Bay. Brad Loroff is the manager of transit in Thunder Bay, and he can explain what these changes are and what they're going to accomplish. Brad, thanks for joining me here in the Minute Studio today.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad you could make it in today.
It's great to be here, yeah.
So I remember, over the years when I worked in media, I covered a few talks about changes and routes and optimization,
Right.
all that sort of stuff. So what are we looking at now?
So what we're looking at is hopefully what we're calling a transformational change, a system-wide change. We're looking at doing all kinds of things. But ultimately, all of the work that we're doing, things like confirming service standards, planning and design guidelines, this will all be part of the things leading up to landing on a new model. And the new model that we're hoping to implement is it's a hybrid on-demand system where rather than relying solely on a conventional fixed route system where buses travel on fixed routes at fixed schedules, that across the network will also have opportunities to for people to take on-demand trips. And on-demand is a feasible new alternative transit model that's technology-abled. It's driven by technology, by a mobile app, and we'll use that type of service for parts of the network where there's lesser demand, where routes have lesser ridership. There may be routes that have fairly good ridership during the day, but during certain periods of the day or maybe days of the week, that ridership declines. And so there would be an appropriate example as well to implement on demand. There's some areas of the city now that don't receive transit service, where it wouldn't be feasible to introduce like a conventional fixed route type of transit service in those areas. So on-demand is another way to introduce some transit service into those types of areas. And everything that we hear about the city today is about how important growth is, growth and sustainability. So, we see all of these changes as ways to help and support what's to come with respect to growth and sustainability.
I've heard about on-demand transit before, and I think it's even been mentioned for like the Neben route at one time. Is that correct?
That's right, and this is so it's not entirely new. It's something that's been on our radar for quite some time, but the on-demand technology and the on-demand micro transit environment has really changed and evolved from when we started talking about looking and exploring it a few years ago to where it is today. So this is why the timing is right now. It works well for us. But it is something that we have had on our minds for some time, but now we're going to be taking some action towards it.
And the plan that you have laid out has 3 phases to it. So why is it broken out into 3 different phases?
So it's broken out into those phases for a number of reasons, because one, what we need to do is establish and just confirm, reconfirm what the city's transit service design guidelines should be, what our service standards should be, and whatnot. And those are the rules that kind of ground what makes up the transit network and the service itself, bus frequencies, service start and end times, and things like that, where buses go, where they travel, when they travel, how they travel, and all of the rules around the network. That needs to be confirmed. The other big piece of it is we need a technology partner. So the technology that we have right now, that we do have an on-demand technology, but it's tired and it's no longer supported. So we need a new technology partner to help us with this. And then as that work progresses, we need to really confirm the new concept itself and exactly what it looks like. And when we're positioned to share that, then we'll be having more discussions, communication and engagement with council, with the public about what it looks like. And so that's why it's phased, because there's so much work that's involved with this that it will take us some time to have the right things in place to be able to implement things in like as part of a phased strategy. The other part of it is it allows the opportunity to utilize smaller vehicles, because obviously with on demand you're moving less ridership at one time, so the need for the 40-foot conventional bus may not be the appropriate vehicle type. So to start with the initial phases of implementation, we're fortunate in that we will likely be able to take advantage of the vehicles that we use for our specialized transit service, which is Lift Plus. But there are more ideal vehicle types out there. We don't have those in our fleet just yet. And it takes time to confirm what that vehicle should be, and then procurement takes time as well. So we're probably at least a year away from seeing different types of vehicles. Once those are actually confirmed. But so that's the reason for the 2-year period.
Yeah, so that's a lot of work, and that's
it is.
It's
a huge undertaking, huge effort. What people will see is when changes come. What they won't see is the hours and hours and hours of staff work that will go into it to bring it to a state that people can see and go, oh, okay, that's I can see how that's going to work, and that might work for me. So, and that's the whole idea, is making transit more attractive for people so that they consider it as a choice, rather than taking it completely out of necessity.
Yeah, and I was going to ask though, like, what is the impact going to be on customers and riders, kind of at the end of all this?
At the end of the day, what we should see, and what we want to see, and what we will see, is on our conventional fixed routes that service key destination points, popular destination points that operate in high demand areas. We want to see better frequency on those routes, potentially longer service spans, earlier start times, later end times, things like that. And then with parts of the network where the demand isn't as great, there should be on-demand options where people will have the convenience of not having to wait for a bus in an evening period at a 45-minute frequency. They'll be able to open up their app, plan their trip. And that's the great thing about the technology-based app, is that once you request your trip and your trip is confirmed, you follow along. It's like an Uber service, for lack of a better word, where once your trip is confirmed, you watch the vehicle, you're told where to catch, at what stop to catch your vehicle. So it from a convenience perspective, that helps you.
Yeah, you're not staying outside for 20 minutes in a snowstorm or cold weather or what have you.
It's a different type of service. I think it's more user friendly, and certainly in other peer transit systems that we've talked to where they've already gone into this type of service. It's worked well. It's not a magic bullet. You have to be very careful in how you implement it into the entire transit network, and that's what all of the work is for, leading up to it, to make sure we get it right.
Now I know that a number of smaller communities use on demand. Kenora, I know, is talking about going to this, but Thunder Bay's a fairly good sized city.
Sure.
Are there other cities our size that are doing this?
Oh, 100%. If you go into the GTHA, if you go out west, there are municipalities that look like Thunder Bay that are already in that space, and there's all different kinds. There's Guelph, there's Oakville, there's if we go out west, I know there's transit systems out there. I mean, some of the larger systems have gone into it as well, and obviously a larger transit system has a lot more capacity, but but certainly we have comparable peers that are in this space already, and there are some others like us that are not. But we think it's the right time, and it's the right it's the right time to look at an alternative model and go in that direction.
You were at council on Monday. What happened at council on Monday?
I think it was a great discussion. My perception was that they were very receptive of it. They were appreciative of it. I think it's always exciting to hear opportunities for improvement, which is what this is. And I think that's what they're looking for. And I think that's what, at least when I talk to people who take transit and I listen to what we do well and maybe things that we don't do well, this is a way to fix some of those things that we don't do well and make it better. So I think council on the whole was supportive, took some great questions. And I think really now the work is on us to do the work and bring back more information so that there's some more clarity with what people can expect.
And I'm assuming that's going to be about a year from now, because it looked like the first phase was kind of going to be December-ish, end of the year by 2025.
I would think that we'd be able to provide some status updates within about a 6-month timeline. And that would be my objective, is to at least keep council updated a few times a year, let them know how it's going, let them know that we're on track, or if there's any hiccups that are coming up along the way. But that'll be our plan, is to keep everyone informed.
Okay, well, maybe in 6 months I'll pencil you in. We'll see how it goes.
I'd be happy to come back and sit and talk about what I had breakfast on that day.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Brad, thanks for coming in today.
Okay, thanks.
Brad Loroff, he is the transit manager in Thunder Bay, and he joined me here today in the Minutes studio. And a big thanks for listening to the Minutes this week. Of course, if you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, just visit thunderbay.ca/council. If you want to listen to past episodes or maybe provide some feedback, visit thunderbay.ca/theminutes. You can also find the Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, you can find us on YouTube and on our website as well. That's thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. I'm Jeff Walters. Thanks for listening this week. We'll chat again in 2 weeks. Make it a great day.